Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschatya Desatarine. When I was coming over to my office to begin this class, I was thinking, we probably started these classes in late March, and we started 7 days a week. Then maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, we reduced it to 5 days a week. So if you add up all the classes on this one topic, we must be up to close to 70 or 80. And we've been talking every day on one topic about death, leaving the body, and how to do that, what is the process, and what happens after we leave the body. But of those 70 classes, the majority were about preparing to leave the body. And so I was thinking on my way over here that if any group should be able to be prepared for someone leaving their body, we would be, you would think we would be somewhat prepared, and we realize that the loss of a Vaishnava you're never prepared for, because it's such a loss for us individually, and it's such a loss for the world, and it's such a loss for ISKCON. And I was saying last night that when a great Vaishnava leaves, your life will never be the same. And no matter how much you grieve and how much you heal, that loss, that it permanently affects you, because there's somebody there that was enriching you in special ways that you can't personally access. And it's a reality, no matter how much we talk about the soul being eternal. And it's confusing, especially sometimes confusing for younger devotees. Say, well, Krishna says you shouldn't lament for the dead, and there's so many verses like that. And then we have the prayers of the Vaishnava Acharyas who are lamenting for these great Acharyas who were present on the planet and who had left, and they no longer have their association, and they're saying things like, I beat my head on the rocks, I'm so distraught. And I was thinking, it reminds me of the verse in the third canto where Lord Kapila says that basically he's saying that attachment to the Vaishnavas is the best attachment you can have. And so that separation that's being felt is just the other side of the attachment, and it's actually increasing the attachment. So when we talk about that kind of separation, we wouldn't say it is like ordinary lamentation, and we wouldn't say that it is wrong to feel that way, or we're being influenced by the modes of nature, because it actually has a transcendental nature to it, in that it increases our attachment to that devotee, and therefore increases our devotion to our own spiritual masters, to Prabhupada and to Krishna. So as devotees, we're not trying to be without emotion. We're just trying to direct our emotion to something transcendental. And so emotions are natural. In fact, in the Bhagavatam, I believe it's the fourth canto, Prabhupada said that when the spiritual master leaves his body, the disciple should cry. So Prabhupada did not say when the spiritual master leaves their body, you should not lament. He's saying, no, you should. But that lamentation is spiritual. It's transcendental. So, even though we've been discussing this topic, you could say threadbare, it's like everything relevant to this discussion or meaningful to this discussion, we're reading Prabhupada's own words in his books, conversations, lectures, morning walks. We're reading everything. And still, we can see that the loss of a great Vaishnava is difficult. And it's even difficult for those who didn't know Maharaj well, because they just knew how dear he was to Prabhupada and how important his presence was for ISKCON. And it's even affecting them, which is, it's interesting to watch. And I think also that, I think his life, Bhakti Tirtha Swami's life and message was so important for members of ISKCON that Krishna arranged, I mean, this is just a thought I had today, I actually had yesterday, Krishna arranged that he would leave his body during this lockdown time. Because we all have more time to be online, we have more time to attend classes, and so it facilitates discussion. There's been so many classes about Maharaj. And if all the preachers were traveling, like we normally do, and all the devotees were out doing their normal service, I don't think there would be so much attendance, and I don't think there would be so many classes, because we all wouldn't have that much time. We'd be gone, we'd be at our jobs, we'd be doing our service. And now we have more time. And I was thinking, as I was looking at all the classes, and just I didn't watch them all, I watched some, but of seeing how many classes there are about Maharaj, and I was thinking, I was wondering why so many Vaishnavas have left, and why now is there so much discussion about this Vaishnava? And not to minimize his greatness, that's part of it, certainly. That he endeared himself to so many people, there's no question. But also because of the time we're in, we're all listening to more classes. And we've all learned how to use Zoom and Facebook Live, and all these, people who didn't know how to use it are using it now. And so it's like, in one sense, it's to glorify, to learn from a Vaishnava's life. This is the best time for, I'm not saying, okay, call your guru up and say, Guru Maharaj, this is a good time for you to leave your body because everyone can glorify you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying because of this situation, it became the perfect time for all of us to learn more about him, hear more about him, glorify him, and so forth. So I thought that was interesting. And I would suggest all of you to do that. You will benefit so much by hearing about him, and you will learn so much about Vaishnav culture because he personified that. And you will learn so much about Prabhupada, and you will learn what it means to be dedicated. You will learn that being dedicated to Prabhupada is not something that you just can concoct in your mind, this is what it means, but you will learn by hearing about his life that it means very directly doing what Prabhupada wanted exactly, and being precise about it. And I was just remembering this morning, because I had the opportunity to work closely with Maharaj when he was GBC in Mauritius, when I was temple president. And I remember how precise he was about everything. Like whatever we would do, no, it has to be exactly like this. I don't want to say he was a perfectionist in that sense. I didn't see him as a perfectionist. I saw him as someone who knew what Prabhupada wanted, who knew what Krishna wanted, and for Krishna, we had to make it perfect. For myself, okay, that's one thing. But for Krishna's service, it has to be perfect. So he was very precise about things. I am precise sometimes, but not all the time. He was precise all the time. This is how it must be done. This is the right way to do it. And so what I'm saying is, that was one thing I learned, but there's so many things you can learn from him. And if you listen to all the glorification, you will hear the pastimes, and you will learn from those pastimes so many lessons, and you will hear so many things that he did which which will set an example for you in your own life and will inspire you to behave better. And and I think because I spoke on Monday about him, and then in that time, today's Wednesday, I was listening to different things that people said about him, and one thing that came up again and again was in his interactions with devotees who were having difficulties or controversies, whatever. No, don't leave ISKCON. Never leave ISKCON. Stay within ISKCON, because people would get frustrated and they'd want to leave. And he said, no, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. Always stay, always stay, always stay. That was one thing that stood out in many stories. And the other thing that stood out is in many stories is he had the ability, because he was such a gentleman, to no matter, it's just so nice, no matter what he had to deal with differences of opinion with devotees and even taking sides, the sides he felt he needed to take to represent Prabhupada. After that, disagreements in debating, whether it was philosophy or management or practical matters, he would go up to the devotee and said, aside from the management, I don't want this to disturb our relationship. He was really concerned about the relationship. I thought that was so beautiful. Because sometimes when you disagree, it can disturb a relationship. And the relationships, he wanted to distinguish the relationship from the issues of controversy. Like, you may believe women should be guru. You may believe women should not be guru. And sometimes those arguments can get very heated. And sometimes those arguments can disturb relationships. And he was very concerned that whatever side of the issue he may be on, he would not disturb the relationship of those devotees who were on the other side of the issue. And one devotee told a story that there was some discussion like that with the GBC, and after the session was over, he went up to a devotee that he felt that maybe that devotee was a little disturbed by the discussion. And he said, I don't want this discussion to disturb our relationship. So he was he valued relationships and he tried to maintain them in everything he did. No matter how difficult the situation was, he didn't want to disturb the relationships. He found that to be so important. And I would say that not only because that's his nature, but I would say so much of what you saw in him that would come out of him that you might think is his nature was not always necessarily entirely his nature, but it was entirely what Prabhupada wanted, and that he imbibed that. So it looked like it was his nature. It may not have been entirely his nature, but because that's what Prabhupada wanted, it became his nature, which is just so interesting. It was like in the Krishna book. It said Pradyumna, if he liked something and he found out that Krishna didn't like it, then he didn't like it anymore, which is, you like to eat something. You find, Prabhupada doesn't like that. I don't like it anymore. I never eat it. That's interesting. And if he didn't like something, but Krishna liked it, all of a sudden he liked it. And that's also very interesting. I love this. But yesterday you said you hated it. No, I found that Krishna loves it, so I love it. So it was a little like that with him. It was like he was embodying what Prabhupada wanted, and he would make it his nature. So if this is what Prabhupada wanted, it just became who he was, which is like amazing. Amazing lesson for a disciple, isn't it? Isn't it? Don't you agree? Like you become what your guru wants. Isn't it? So yeah. Anuradha's glorifying the lockdown. She says, I think it's amazing for spreading Krishna consciousness. Online programs have been attending 3 times more people than normal. And you have been going virtually to new countries. Yeah, definitely more people are attending. That's for sure. At least on my classes, on like the daily, I used to do 2 classes a week on Facebook. And depending on the time, the location, we, in Mayapur, we'd have we'd have 50 people live in the class, so that was great. But online, we wouldn't have as many as we're having now. I think now we're having about twice the amount. And occasionally, sometimes 3 times. So that's really good. And as Anuradha said, we have a chance to introduce Krishna consciousness to different devotees in different countries that we've never gone to. So yeah, it is special. And I was just thinking this morning that, this lockdown has facilitated devotees getting to know Maharaj and what he lived for, what he stood for, and creating interest in his classes and learning about him. So that's really wonderful. And as I was saying on Monday, I always feel when a great Vaishnava leaves a fear that he'll be for what he stood for, the examples he set, what he gave devotees, which is so valuable, which he continued to give when he was alive, would be lost over time. And all those years of cultivating Krishna consciousness and all the realizations that devotees get, we don't want to lose those, because those are precious. Those are gems. And oftentimes the experiences and the realizations of these senior devotees are so deep that we see them like gifts, in that we could not have these realizations, or maybe we could have them, but we wouldn't be able to have them now. It may take many more years of Krishna consciousness before we get them. And then they give them to you. And you go, I never understood that. And so it's like such a precious gift. Or you see an example, how they behaved, and you think, I never would have reacted in this way to this situation, but now I see how I should react. Now I see how I should deal with this. And so to lose those valuable realizations and to lose those valuable examples, it would be a great loss for ISKCON in general and a great loss for us individually. And so I always have this feeling when a great Vaishnava leaves, what must we do to preserve their memory? I hope their memory is not lost. And of course you might say, well, at least amongst their disciples, it wouldn't be lost, or it shouldn't be lost. But even amongst disciples, it's possible, the way the world works, the way Maya works, to forget what their guru stood for. But aside from that, or in addition to that, not aside, but in addition to that, what they can offer the whole movement. I heard a story this morning. It's beautiful. And this is such a beautiful instruction for us, and it's just an example of what I'm saying. So one devotee was sharing that she was either going to take initiation from Indradrumna Swami, or she was going to take initiation from Bhaktichara Swami, and she didn't know which one. And she talked to him, and he said, this is not an official thing. He said, ultimately it doesn't matter. He said, it matters where your heart is. It's not like a ritual or a formality that I should take from this guru because it's more proper, or he's this, or even closer, or these may be considerations. But he was saying those are not the real considerations. He said it was a consideration of the heart, where your heart is, not what is like officially considered correct. Well, this guru is in my zone and everyone's taking from him. That seems to be more correct, politically correct, or logically correct, or whatever. And you say, no, it's not like that. It's like what's in your heart, where your heart is. And then he said something beautiful, which I think is so valuable for our movement. And he said, whatever you decide, that will not change our relationship. I said, wow, that's it. And he put that so perfectly that if you have let's say, because it happens often, that you have connection with two gurus, you're very deeply attached, and you're thinking, which one am I going to take initiation from? And that can generate some kind of material thinking, looking at it in a material way. And he also made the point that, we're all brothers. It's like we're all in one family. So it's not really different in a sense between this guru and that guru. It's just a sense of you. Where's your heart most deeply connected? And that's not a question of right or wrong. It's just a question of you. It's like you choose to marry a person. Well, there may be many people you could have chosen. It doesn't mean the other people are bad. It doesn't mean you wouldn't have been happily married to them. It's just there's a certain connection with someone. But that statement that it's not going to change our relationship, I think that's perfect, because she had a relationship with two gurus and she had to choose one to take diksha. And he was making the point, it doesn't put one above the other or make one different than the other. If your heart is there with both of them, why would that change the relationship? And the same thing is true if after you take initiation, your heart is captured by another Vaishnava. Sometimes devotees think, well, I must be offending my guru because my heart is captured by the dedication, the sweetness, the words, the kirtan, whatever it is, of this other Vaishnava. And the thing is, it's natural to be captured by the qualities of a Vaishnava, especially if the words of that Vaishnava are penetrating your heart. If that words of the if the words and the actions and the example of a Vaishnava are bringing you closer to Krishna, it's basically impossible not to become attached to that person. That's my personal experience. Anyone who brings you closer to Krishna, you become attached to them, whether they're your diksha guru or not. It would be wrong to withhold that attachment, thinking that I'm being unchaste or offensive to my diksha guru. That would be terribly wrong. That would be unnatural. But to become attached to a Vaishnava, according to Kapila Dev, is what opens the doors to Krishna consciousness, the doors to liberation. And it's how you become Krishna conscious. And if you tell your Guru Maharaj, if someone says to me, I become so attached to Bhakti Chara Swami, I'm so attached to Radhanath Swami, I'm so attached to Indradumna Swami, my first response is? That's great. It makes my job a lot easier because there's someone else in your life who's also helping you. I'm just saying, just totally from a practical point of view, it makes the job of the Diksha Guru easier because now he's got help. I've seen this. I have many Siksha disciples, and I've seen in many ways it's so much easier for me to help Siksha disciples because they have a Diksha Guru. So they're like getting it here, and I'm trying to help one side, and they're being held up by their Diksha Guru. So the Diksha Guru, if he sees a disciple, his heart is being affected by the words and actions of another devotee, he thinks that's very good. More help. Why not? It's like if you're a professor and you get tutoring and it helps you, your professor's not going to say, why did you go to the tutor? You don't have faith in me, you don't trust me. No, not like that at all. So the point is that I've seen this in my own life, that it's almost impossible when someone helps you become Krishna conscious to not have a place for them in your heart, because the dearest thing to us is to develop our relationship with Krishna and to develop our relationship with Prabhupada. And because that's so important for us, when somebody helps you do that, it's so natural to become attached to them, to feel grateful, to appreciate them, to want to serve them, to want to give something to them. Give your time, give your energy, give your resources, give your money. It's just natural. And I think the worst, not that I think, I know, the worst thing that we could ever do in an organization would be to try to limit that or direct that person away from that relationship. It's like the worst thing we could practically do, because it's natural. And just like Prabhupada says, you have one Diksha Guru, but you can have many Siksha Gurus. And it's not like, okay, today I'm going out to search for, Prabhupada said I could have many Siksha Gurus. I'm going online today. I'm listening to lectures from 10 gurus. Every day this week I'm listening to lectures from 10 gurus. I want to find my Siksha Gurus. It's not exactly like that. It's just that because of our natures and the natures of the various gurus, hearing from some gurus will impact you more than others. And hearing from some will impact you so much that you just feel a connection with that person. You feel inspired. You feel you want to serve them and so forth. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's everything right with that. And I think now, when you're hearing about Bhakti Charaswami, you may even feel that. You may not even have known him or even listened to them, and now you may feel that, and you may want to hear and say, I want to hear his lectures. This is really inspiring. And you should never think your guru would be upset. Never think like that. Your guru would be upset if you're getting guidance and you're feeling attached to another Vaishnava. And it's not like, well, if I become attached to this other Vaishnava, like I have 100 points of attachment, so, now my attachment's to my Diksha Guru, and I'm not attached to anyone else. But if I start hearing from these other Vaishnavas and become attached, then it's going to go down. No, it's not like that at all. It doesn't have any effect on that relationship. It doesn't minimize it. And many, I was thinking yesterday how sometimes one parent will tell you something and you don't understand what they're saying. And then the other parent will explain what they're saying. Isn't it? What your father, is like, no. The kid's going, fighting, and says, what your father is saying is this, this, and this. And then the kid is pacified, but they didn't understand what their father was saying. The way he said it, or was too difficult to understand, and so forth. So sometimes when you hear from another Vaishnava, you think, oh, that's what my Guru Maharaj was saying. So by hearing from them, it creates a connection with your Guru Maharaj. Oh, I never understood he was saying that way, like that. Or we're trying to explain what Prabhupada said. So you become more attached to Prabhupada. Oh, that's what I read that purport. I didn't understand. That's what Prabhupada said. So, we're like the mother to explaining the father. So sometimes the Siksha Gurus, so-called, like the mother, better, or you'll just hear and you go, oh, that's exactly what my Guru Maharaj says. And then it's like this synergy of hearing the same thing from two different people. It's powerful. Because, oh, my Guru Maharaj would always say the same thing. So it's reinforcing it. So this is important. And this is what a healthy ISKCON looks like, where we all have deep affection, and we will sometimes, sometimes someone will say, tell me something about book distribution, and I'll just say, go to Vaisheshika Prabhu's website. He's the Acharya. Tell me something about deity worship. Oh, Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, or the Nrsimha Kavacha, the deity worship. Let them become your Siksha Gurus for deity worship. Vaisheshika Prabhu, your Siksha Guru for book distribution. And you'll say, yeah, but Mahaprabhu, you did book distribution. Yeah, but he's still doing it. It's his life. It's in his blood. He breathes it. If you get it from him, it's going to be better. Does it mean I'm defective as a guru? No, it just means we recognize we have so much association. Or, somebody will ask some technical information about some ritual. I'll say, ask my godbrother so-and-so. He knows everything. And if you actually wanted to study all those rituals seriously, then he would be your Siksha Guru in that department. And that's what a healthy ISKCON looks like. And as we said on Monday, and a healthy ISKCON looks like all of that's going on, and there's one father in the center who's dominating far above everyone else. And we're all looking to that father, and we're just trying to represent him. So these are some of my thoughts, which just took me a half hour to explain. I think what's happened to me is I've been very, this sounds strange to say I've been inspired by his passing, but what has happened is I've been inspired to understand him better. I've been inspired by understanding him better and by hearing from so many devotees, and it's been causing me to reflect a lot on our movement and what we need, and especially now for my generation of devotees, it's obvious the movement's was going to be turned over to the next generation, and we're all thinking, we've spent 50 odd years in this movement, and so this movement is like a baby to us, and we're turning over the baby to the next generation, and we're all very concerned. Will the next generation understand this? Will they understand that? Will they be able to carry it? Will they be strong enough? And in Maharaj's passing really impacted me in that way, because he was so concerned about the future of ISKCON, is so concerned about Prabhupada's position being established within the heart of everyone, in every devotee's heart, in every temple, every center, every project. Not like in some temples, yes, Prabhupada's very much the center. In other places or zones, not so much. It was, as we discussed on Monday, that was his concern. And so it's just been kind of a catalyst for me to, maybe catalyst is not the word, it's been intensifying what already existed within me and many other of my godbrothers and senior devotees who were also concerned about ISKCON being one happy family, many Diksha Gurus serving under Prabhupada, many Siksha Gurus who are helping, and devotees finding shelter in so many gurus and not distinguishing this is a Diksha Guru, this is a Siksha Guru, but it being a matter of heart, that where we find Krishna consciousness, where we find inspiration, we feel free to get our shelter there, to get our instructions, and we're not thinking this is wrong or offensive to my Diksha Guru. I think, no, this is just normal. This is, this is a relationship. This person is helping me. And we're all individuals, and we all bring to the life of others certain abilities, qualities, insights, ways of understanding Prabhupada. But certainly each of us doesn't bring everything. So it's natural that you would hear from other devotees and maybe learn something new or hear something new that you hadn't heard before that opens you up. And think, oh, that's really interesting. He's presenting Krishna consciousness in this way. I haven't heard that. I haven't understood it that way. That's not a defect of your spiritual master. It's just that we all have different ways of looking at things. And I'm also talking about not just other Diksha Gurus, but Siksha Gurus also. So, that was my thought. As you may probably understand by the talks I've given often at the beginning of these classes, I think a lot, which I think is good if you think about the right thing. I have an analytical mind, so I think about things. And a lot of what I'm telling you was just on a 45-second walk from my house to this office, what I was thinking. It's interesting, right? If you can use the mind properly, it's interesting. So those are my thoughts for today. And now I think we should actually start the class. I think I'll forego the kirtan, or maybe there'll be time at the end, or what do you think? Can we forego the kirtan, or should we have a kirtan? I think, or you want me to talk more about this topic? Yesterday we completely talked about, we didn't read anything. I got off on one of my monologues of what I was thinking that I felt was so important. It was just that this event has impacted me in a specific way that's making me think in a way that I don't normally think. That's what I think I'm trying to say. I probably have said that and made that clear. So it's just a lot is coming out. I think it's a lot is coming out of a lot of devotees' hearts in reflections. And what happens when some great soul leaves, it forces you to reflect on your experience and what you learned and what you got from that person. And so it magnifies that person's greatness. Is that the greatness was there, but unfortunately we always don't notice it to the degree that we notice it when they leave, because now when they leave, we realize that we're not going to get any more of what ever it was they were giving, and then we start thinking, well, what were they giving, and what did go on in those experiences that I had? And we don't normally think that way because we're going to have more experiences with that person. So it's kind of like we live in the moment more of being with them, interacting, having those experiences, and then going on and not always reflecting so deeply, what just happened when I was with him? How was I affected? Now when the person leaves, you reflect more. What actually happened when I was with him? What was I seeing? What was I noticing? Isn't it? So, as many of us have thought, why does it take a person leaving to do that? And I feel that all the time in my experience of people leaving, how all of a sudden so much comes to light, and so much of what they did and stood for and what they left comes to light. Why not when they're present? Why can't it be that way? And I think we need to just meditate on that question and try to get the most we can from the association that we're getting of these great sadhus that are living with us. And whenever, especially, and this is not to minimize anyone, but especially whenever you can get the association of a Prabhupada disciple, I always recommend, get as much as you can. Maybe there's a Prabhupada disciple in your temple. Maybe there's a Prabhupada disciple visiting your temple. Maybe you're in India and there's some Prabhupada disciples who would give you some time, who would spend time, say, can I ask you a question? And they'll say, sure, sit down, we'll talk. Take it, because you don't know how long they're going to be here. You don't know when you're going to see them. And their experience, their understanding of Prabhupada, and their association of Prabhupada is so valuable and in many ways unique to the experience of the next generation. It's just obviously special to have not special to be an initiated disciple of Prabhupada as much as it's special to have been in his presence and to have been in a movement that was moved by his presence. Because even if you didn't meet Prabhupada, just being in the movement, his presence was thick through the movement, so you were feeling it, and and you were understanding Krishna consciousness as it was coming from him, because it pervaded the movement. So to be in that situation, to have grown up in Krishna consciousness, your formative years in Krishna consciousness, to have experienced those things, to have, and what to speak of having seen and heard Prabhupada in a variety of situations, is obviously rare, because in 20, 30 years, it'll be impossible now to have that Sangha. And who knows how much we'll even remember, what's going to happen to our minds when we get older. I listen to my memories videos, and I'm listening to some stories, and I one time I was thinking, I completely forgot that story. The memory video was made in 1995. So it was 25 years ago. And I'm listening to something I said 25 years ago. And there were a few things that in those 25 years escaped my mind. I totally forgot. So who knows what they'll remember. Who knows if they'll ever write it down. You may be the only one they ever told it. They might say, I never told this to anyone. Write it down, because if they haven't written it down and they haven't told it to anybody, you're the only one who knows. And these tidbits are so important. And these leelas are so important. These realizations are so important. And you may have your guru, you may have your Siksa guru, but never minimize the value. Even you might see a Prabhupada disciple and say, yeah, but, he's this or she's that. You may not feel so inspired, but when you dig in and pull Prabhupada out, you will be amazed what comes out. So that would be my suggestion. Pull Prabhupada out of the heart of his disciples whenever you can. And they will give you very good instructions and very good guidance. And they'll tell you things like, during Prabhupada's time, we did this and we didn't do that. And it may be just the opposite now. And you may say, oh, I never knew that, because when I joined ISKCON, we always did this. And they may say, no, we never did that. Prabhupada never allowed that. And then you'll think, well, why are we doing it now? Of course, that's a good question. Why are we doing it now? But now you know Prabhupada didn't do that. You could discuss with your temple president. So-and-so just said that during Prabhupada's time, he forbid this. Or we didn't do this. Why do we do it now? Why do we allow this? So much value like that can come. So that's one of my suggestions to all of you. If you're ever able to get the association of Prabhupada's disciple, I'm talking personally, meet them. Get it. And for the women, get that, for the men also, but especially for the women, get the association of those female disciples. They'll give you time. They will. They definitely will. At least most of them will. They're not super, super busy. I think they'll give you time. So, and come to Alachua sometime, because there's about 100 of them here, or 150. And come to Alachua. Well, now everything's different. Come to Alachua sometime for Janmashtami and Prabhupada's appearance day, or Prabhupada's disappearance day, because you can hear one after another Prabhupada's disciples speaking about Prabhupada. And if you can't come, it's broadcast, and it's just amazing. Such a meeting of Prabhupada disciples, and also traditionally Memorial Weekend, which is the last weekend, or second to last weekend in May in Los Angeles, they have a Prabhupada festival. Of course, they have the Sadhu Sangha festival now, but the Prabhupada festival is a gathering of Prabhupada disciples who would sharing their realizations. So I think it's so important. And why it's so important is because you, as the next generation, really need to know what ISKCON was like, how it was governed, what devotees did, what they were feeling, what they were understanding during Prabhupada's time, because that's what we're trying to preserve into the future. And so the more you understand it, the more you know, the better. And the less you know, and the less you understand, then you will just make judgments based on what you think you understand to be Krishna conscious. But in some cases, you could miss the mark, not having known how Prabhupada did it, how he saw it, what was going on in his presence. Of course, there's always time, place, context consideration we have to take into account. But still, the more you know, the more we know about Prabhupada, the better our movement will better our movement will be equipped to face the storms that will come. Now, some devotees have asked me to tell a little history of ISKCON here and there, and I just am inspired right now to tell a little history. And I think it's relevant to what could happen to ISKCON in the future, because history tends to repeat itself. ISKCON was growing rapidly, just incredibly during Prabhupada's time. And we were thinking, we were serious. You're going to think we were really stupid or naive. We were seriously thinking around the time Prabhupada left. We were very, very determined to fulfill Prabhupada's desire to make the world Krishna conscious. And we thought we could probably do it in 20 years. We thought by the end of the 90s, pretty much the world would be Krishna conscious. And you might be thinking, how could you think like that? That is so stupid, unrealistic, naive. I want to bring you into this context so you understand why and how we could be thinking like that. Something that seems so stupid, we were thinking. Why? Because Krishna consciousness was spreading so rapidly and expanding, like doubling every year. You know this equation, if you take 1 penny and you double it for 30 days, you end up with like $600,000 or $2 million. I learned about this when I was like 8 years old. I said, "Would you give me a penny every day and double it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then we do the math, and like I owe him like $600,000 or something. So ISKCON was like doubling every year. It just kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. And some of the biggest growth years of ISKCON, I don't know if you know this, were the 2-3 years after Prabhupada left. Because after Prabhupada left, we felt this tremendous burden, and we all felt we have to step up our game. Prabhupada's not here. There's a vacuum. If we all step up our game, we'll fill the vacuum. So things kept expanding. There was this momentum which actually increased when Prabhupada left. And we were thinking, this is amazing. I never saw an ISKCON that didn't increase every year. And so because of that, we were thinking, this movement is going to completely influence society. And Krishna consciousness will have a stronghold everywhere. We were thinking like that just by watching what was happening. And then probably around 1982, that momentum started decreasing. Some of the gurus started having trouble. And I can't say exactly if it was 82, it could have been 81, it could have been 80, it could have been 78, 79, 80. Let's say 3 years after Prabhupada left, 2 or 3 years, it was just a phenomenal increase. Everyone was, we were confused, we were distraught, there were problems, but this momentum of filling in the gap for Prabhupada and becoming better devotees, better examples, it was very strong. And then let's say around 1981, it was like the first year, whatever that year was, 81, 82, 80, it was the first year we ever saw ISKCON not increase. This was out of our, I would say, this was inconceivable to us. It was never in our mind that ISKCON would ever have difficulty like this, because with Prabhupada, we were taking over the world. We were on our way to taking over the world. So could you imagine being in a movement that's on its way to taking over the world? In your heart, you're convinced it's taking over the world, and you're seeing every year it's doubling. I don't know if it's exactly doubling, but expanding. And then all of a sudden, you hit a brick wall. And then, not only do you hit a brick wall, the next year you go down. There's trouble. The next year goes down. The next year goes down. The 80s, from like 81, 82 to the end of the 80s, it was just consecutive. Every year it was worse than the last. We never saw that before. It was inconceivable to us that could ever happen. Devotees, leaders were having trouble. Inconceivable that these devotees would ever have a bout with Maya for more than a nanosecond. It was just inconceivable. And we're watching this movement. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? It's like number one world athlete who's won every Olympic triathlon starts dying when he's like 27 years old. And you're like, what's going on here? This is like the strongest Iron Man in the universe. And now he has no strength. Every year he's getting weaker. It's inconceivable. So why am I telling you this? We're watching ISKCON crashing year by year, and all of a sudden this movement that we thought was going to take over the world, we were in shock. We looked at it and said, no, this movement, the way it's going now, it's not going to take over the world. not only that, we're going to lose devotees. And not only that, we're hardly going to make any devotees. We're going to lose more than we're going to make. It was a nightmare. As a side point, offer your dandavats to every Prabhupada disciple that's still here, because it was hell. The fact that they're still here trying to serve ISKCON, it's amazing. Just take the dust of their feet, put it on your head. Because that was like probably the hardest time any human being would ever have to go through on an emotional level, to watch what Prabhupada created collapse at the hands of leaders who were misusing, not all leaders, but some misusing their positions, and nothing you could do about it, but just watch it collapse. It was horrible. Inconceivable. So why am I telling you this? In the 90s, it got better. In the 2000s, it got better. In the 2010, it got better. Every year, it's getting better now. Book distribution is getting better. More programs, devotee care, more talk about varnashram, self-sufficiency. We're not there yet, but at least we're talking about it. We're confronting our problems. Temples are getting better. Devotees are more intelligent, dynamic preaching. We're making inroads in different areas of society. More people are interested. Some of our devotees are becoming superstars on the internet. It's like, wow, it's happening. I don't think there's the sense that we can take over the world that we could when our general, Srila Prabhupada, was present, but it's much better. And I think if you look at this trend and you look at the psychology, the trend is it's getting better. The psychology is we're going to make it happen despite the problems. And my warning to all of you is what happened to us could happen to you. Maybe not in the same way. It could not be a defect in leadership. It could be a loss of faith. It could be sidelining Prabhupada. My point is, when Prabhupada left, Maya came in like with weapons, ammunition, and forces she could never use to defeat us. Because she knew she couldn't with Prabhupada here. She wouldn't even try. When Prabhupada left, she came in with ammunition we never saw. It was like, this was my personal perception of what happened. It was like, oh my God, what's going on here? This never happened before. And it was like Maya just upped her game like 100-fold and said, okay, now I'm going to get you. I'm going to tear this movement apart. That's what, on an emotional level, that's what I was going through. And I'm sure most everyone was going through that, just watching. It's like, what happened? It seems so obvious to us. The Acharya left, and Maya said, now's my chance. I couldn't do this when he was here. And I think it's like that now. You have all these Prabhupada disciples. You have so much of Prabhupada in ISKCON because his disciples are still here. Most of the GBC are his disciples. And most of the leaders, if they're not his disciples, they grew up in an ISKCON right after Prabhupada left. So it's almost like they feel like his disciples. They got Prabhupada very deeply, thickly ingrained in them. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it would be naive to think that as things are progressing now, they're just going to continue that way after the Prabhupada disciples go. I wouldn't make that assumption at all. Now, we as Prabhupada disciples are trying to establish things so it will work. But my only warning to you, and I hope I'm wrong, but my only warning to you is I think when that happens, when all the disciples, or at least all the great leaders in ISKCON are either gone, retired, too traumatized, ill, burned out, whatever, to be involved anymore, or just want to spend the last days of their life in bhajan. And now it's all of you, the next generation. I wouldn't be surprised if Maya, with new weapons and strategies she never used or she couldn't use on us now. And your best defense for this is a movement which has Prabhupada center, how do they say it? Front and center. Yeah. Prabhupada front and center. And many of you are going to have to be gurus. You are not independent entities. You are not emperors of a. Don't own your disciples. You are not meant to micromanage the life of your disciples. You are meant to give your disciples Prabhupada and give them the intelligence to guide their lives and guide this movement. And all of us gurus, and there may be thousands in the future, we will never dominate anything or anybody. We only be servants. That's the mood we have to create. And then if Maya tries to enter, it won't work. But Maya will try to enter with dissension, more powerful gurus, taking more resources, using that, disciples saying, potentially, he's the next one, he's the follower of Prabhupada, no one else is qualified. All this stuff is possible, not unlikely that it could happen. If we don't keep the right siddhanta and the right mood, this could happen. And that's why the Bhakti Chura Swami was so careful, fearful, what's the word, concerned about keeping Prabhupada in the center, keeping the respect for the GBC, keeping that structure there, because he knew that if that wasn't there, Maya could come and just disrupt ISKCON very easily. It wouldn't take a lot to create some faction, some disruption, some leader speaking some new idea, or some leader speaking against another leader, creating conflict, having splits over issues like this female diksha guru issue. It was the most divisive issue ever seen in ISKCON, and it almost split India off from ISKCON. I mean, it didn't, fortunately, but it was going a little bit in that direction. Of course, Indian devotees will say, no, that never would have happened. But it was almost like they felt like that. I don't want to be in an ISKCON where there's female diksha gurus. And in the West, I don't want to be in ISKCON where there are not female diksha gurus. It was such a divisive issue. And what's going to happen with these other divisive issues when there's no Prabhupada disciples? Unless Prabhupada's Siddhanta, Prabhupada's mood, everything, Prabhupada's GBC, everything is intact as it is now. Anyway, Maya is going to, if history repeats itself, Maya is going to try to pull out a few cards you've never seen before. So it's just my warning to you. And if you want to do a service to Srila Prabhupada, and that service will be to help other people, if you want to do the greatest service you can to Srila Prabhupada, I think the greatest service you can do to him is understand his heart, represent it, and be a living example of his teachings. I don't think there's any better service you can do to him, and I don't think there's any better thing Bhakti Chura Swami would want you to do than that. I think he'd want you to, if you could do that, I think you would be in his heart and he would be in your heart. And if his passing is going to achieve the ultimate value that it should, that's one of the major things that we should imbibe from his passing. So, anyway, that's what I said. It was not planned. And anyway, I said it. So, let me read your comments. Fortunately, because of worldwide situation, Polish tour and Woodstock, where we preached for thousands of people, was canceled. So I don't see any good in so-called lockdown. No, that's because one thing is bad. How can you say there's no other good? It's like saying I have a pimple on my nose, so my whole body's bad. The thing is now with this new situation, it's a challenge for us to think what we're going to do. Like the book distributors figured out how to do sets of books to the context they've met over the past year. The center here in Gainesville is famous for prasadam distribution, and they just figured new ways to distribute prasadam. They started distributing prasadam in hospitals to doctors and nurses. So we just have to think how we can create something like that. Like they had Rath Yatra, right? They had Rath Yatra on Zoom. Maybe you want to think about a Zoom Woodstock. Maybe during the time it was Woodstock, we'll have 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. we'll have kirtans. You can talk to Maharaj about it. Let's arrange kirtans. Do we have a mailing list of all the Woodstock people? Can we advertise that? We're going to do our own little Woodstock and kirtans, and ask the devotees doing the kirtans, get some other devotees, make a really amazing kirtan. We have to think like that. Maybe we do live questions and answers. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can get new people in Poland, like we have the question and answer booth. Maybe we can, I don't know how, we have to think like this. That would be amazing. Maybe we'll reach more people. Who knows? Every, what do they say? One door closes, another opens. So that's how we have to think. We're so incredibly fortunate to have Kamaniya says, to have the facility of the internet so that all these classes of yours and your godbrothers are forever documented for posterity. Yeah, it's really interesting. For relishing again and again into future generations. Yeah, maybe it's Krishna's arrangement, because as someone was saying, as you know, for many years, I was giving class on Facebook. Well, originally it started on Krishna.com. And then we did that for several years, and then I found Facebook was easier to use. And so I've been doing this for a long time, maybe 15 years or so, online classes. And when I would travel, as many of you know, I would just put my phone there and we would broadcast on Facebook whenever I would travel. But many of our senior devotees never did that. And now they're sitting in a temple room with 3 people, and it's like, where is everybody? They're at home. Go on Facebook. They'll listen to you. And they go on Facebook, and there's I remember Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, he started doing that. He had never done that before. And he was like, this is amazing. There's more devotees listening now than ever come to my live classes. And this is amazing, And then I actually had never used Zoom. Maybe I used it once or twice. I never really used Zoom before. And now I'm doing a seminar series on forgiveness once a week. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want them to come to my course. It's already recorded. But it's because of this that I'm doing it. And it's because of this that so many devotees that never use the internet at all are using it. And so many devotees who never used it this much are using it, and using it in more ways than ever. And like Kamaniya says, and when you give a class on YouTube or Facebook or Zoom, it's recorded, it's there. Just go to my Facebook page and just go to videos. Then every class is there and every daily video is there. As long as that page is up, it's there. And it's so easy for me because all I do is to give this class, I hit 3 buttons, basically. 1, to get on Facebook, notifications, that's 2. Then to go to my other page is 3. And then live is 4. And then start. So I hit 5 buttons, which takes 10 seconds. And it takes 1 ounce of my brain to figure out how to do that. And then we're live, and then it's there. What a facility. When I used to do courses on Krishna.com, we have all the software and codes and cameras. It was difficult when I traveled to have all that, and so I stopped doing it. And Facebook made this happen. So yes, it's true, totally. Bhakti Swami said, "Whatever you decide, it will not change our relationship." Wow, that is surely a prime example of unconditional love. That Maharaj had such care and affection for that devotee. I'm so far from that platform because the material way of thinking is, oh, you didn't take initiation from me, so okay, all right, You're not my disciple, so I don't care about you. That is the material. Or I didn't take initiation from you, so you're not my guru. So, nice knowing you, but now I have my guru, and I'll just listen to him. No, it's not the way it's meant to be. You have your guru, listen to Prabhupada. You have your guru, listen to whoever inspires you. It's not being unchaste. And this is the neophyte mentality. I think I addressed this on Monday. This is the neophyte mentality. You have a connection with a person, but ultimately, for whatever reason, you decide to take diksha from someone else. And then that relationship you have with this other person that maybe was your Siksha guru or potentially could have been your diksha guru gets minimized. That's wrong. That's 100% wrong. And not only is it wrong, it's terribly sad if it happens, because there is a connection, there's a link that you just cut. Why would you want to, the more links the better. Why would you want to cut links? Doesn't make sense. Yeah, so this is the beautiful statement, And then if you have to make this decision between two gurus to take diksha, it should not change the relationship. If you don't take from one, it should not change the relationship. And as I said, and if in the course of your practice of Krishna consciousness you find a Siksha guru, it should not change the relationship with your diksha guru. It'll just enhance it. And every guru, unless he's got some issue with a person you take shelter of, which hopefully he wouldn't, is just happy that you have more guidance. more people. My job is to help my disciples go back to Godhead. If I could get help from my God brothers, makes my job easier, right? Not like, no, I'm the only one who can take you back to Godhead. Nobody can take you. Don't listen to anyone else. Nobody can do that. Only listen to me. And you can't even understand Prabhupada, so don't listen to him. Just listen to me. Do you realize that was being preached in 1977, 78, 79? Do you realize that? Do you realize how destructive? Do you realize why ISKCON had all those problems? Because things like that were being preached. And Bhakti Sri Swami, just whenever he smelt remnants of that, it really upset him. He was like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. It can't be like that. Anandita, it is natural to be attached to anyone who brings you closer to Krishna. Yep, that's it. We had a problem, and this is a real problem. It's a organizational problem. Occasionally, a devotee hears from someone who's not in ISKCON, no longer in ISKCON, never was in ISKCON, and finds their katha and association valuable. And they become attached, because that's what happens. But it's incompatible with an ISKCON, because those teachers may have slightly different views than ISKCON or Prabhupada. Or they may emphasize things differently. So that's the only time I've seen it become a problem. And it has caused devotees to leave ISKCON, because ISKCON was unable to accommodate a guru who's not under the control of the GBC, which is a whole issue, and it's unfortunate, and I don't know if it ever could be remedied. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be, but it's just to, I don't know, we want to call this a warning, but it is just to inform you that if you ever hear a guru who's outside of ISKCON, and if they're not alive, it's probably not a problem. I've never seen it a problem. It's a problem when they're alive and you become attached, because then you start to associate with other disciples, and it can create problems. So just be aware, it can create problems within the organization. And it has caused devotees, due to their dedication or attachment to that guru, to leave ISKCON, because sometimes in ISKCON those personalities may not be seen so favorably. And even if those personalities are seen favorably, it's just, we're not at a state in our movement where we can easily adapt to that. Maybe we will never be in a state. Maybe we don't want to adapt to it. Maybe it's not good. I don't want to give any opinions or judgments on this. I just want to state the fact that it can be problematic. On the spiritual level, we'll say, no, it's good. You're hearing from this person. It's good. You're advancing. Your spiritual master should be happy. On the managerial level, on the Sangha level, it can create problems, and I've seen it. What started out as something just innocent hearing from a sadhu ended up creating problems, rejection by other disciples, and so forth. So it's an unfortunate organizational reality that there may be sadhus outside of ISKCON. If we become too close and too attached, it could. It doesn't have to, but it could create problems, even to the degree that you would not want to stay in ISKCON if that guru is looked down upon or being criticized. It would be hard for you to hear that. And that's unfortunate. So, it's hard for us to say, don't hear from a sadhu. Here's an advanced sadhu, he's coming, he's not in ISKCON, should I hear from him? It's hard to say no, and on another side, it's easy to say no. It's hard to say no because you'll benefit. And the other side is it could create problems for your spiritual life in the future, unfortunately. And if we're trying to keep our movement together and everyone in ISKCON, it could create a problem that many people would leave ISKCON. And we've seen this. So this is a difficult issue, it's not black and white, but the results are often black and white. Question. Could you kindly speak more to how a devotee takes a Siksha Guru? I understand, of course, that it is also a private matter of the heart, that we can and do take Siksha Guru from a Vaishnava's teachings, classes, but is there also another step of formalizing that relationship, or is it something that happens organically? It's usually more organically. How does that work in our movement, or does it depend on the teacher? I think some devotees have tried to create more of a standard system of what it might be. Like you say, Maharaj, I want to be a Siksha Guru. Okay, then if you want to be my Siksha Guru, you need to do A, B, C, and D. But I don't see much of that. I see that with some devotees who want to formalize it, because the formality helps the Siksha disciple. I'll just explain my experience, what I see. Number one, the most common is the Siksha disciple who either is not ready for diksha or not even thinking about diksha, but it becomes a precursor to diksha, because generally your Siksha, the person you get the most Siksha from, becomes your diksha guru. So that's one scenario. They don't know who their diksha guru is, they don't know if they're ready for diksha, but they like listening to someone and they say, can I be your Siksha disciple because I need guidance? That's one scenario. Usually that person will become a diksha disciple. It's rare that they wouldn't, unless there's not a deep connection there. Then if the deep connection is not there, or they're getting more inspiration from another Siksha guru, then it would change. But generally, if I would go with my experiences, they will stay and eventually become diksha disciples, or at some point they'll say, can you become my diksha guru? And sometimes they want to be Siksha Guru because they're not chanting 16 rounds. They feel, you can't be my Diksha Guru until I'm chanting 16 rounds. And I always say, well, if you're not chanting 16 rounds, find a Siksha Guru who could be your Diksha Guru, because he'll help you get to that point. So that's maybe more understandable scenario, because they don't have a guru and they're looking for shelter somewhere, and they don't know if this Siksha Guru is going to be their Diksha Guru, and they're not thinking about Diksha because they don't feel they're ready yet, or they're just, they're not ready for Diksha, to choose a Diksha Guru. Or they don't understand it well enough to choose. What I have seen with those who are initiated or who are mostly, at least with me, the Siksha disciples I get, if they don't come from that other category, they come from the category of devotees already initiated. Not so much the category of devotees wanting to take initiation from someone else. I don't get that so much. I get it more from those who are initiated. And the reasons that it happens may vary. Common reason is accessibility. Their spiritual masters have many disciples and they have no access. If they write them a letter, they'll never get a reply, or they've already been told, don't write him, or they've been told at initiation, you will not be able to talk to him, or there's no guarantee he has too many disciples. So, and they were okay at the time of initiation, but later they feel, I need more association. I need someone, more guidance. And they may happen across listening to someone. And so, like with me, if I just share my experience, I don't know if this is universal, but a devotee will write and say, I've been listening to your classes and they resonate with me. They're really helping me, or I really like your mood, or something like that. And they're initiated. And it may not be that they're in the category, if I don't have access to my guru, it's just the category of, this really resonates with me. It's really helping me. And I feel connected with you because of that. And I feel this, like, I would like this guru, I would feel sheltered and helped if I could see you as a Diksha guru. And then from that, different things will happen. And I personally don't govern it, and I think some gurus would govern it more. Sometimes it just ends like that. And when they say, can I be your Siksha disciple, I never say no. I never say, well, here are the rules. Maybe I should, maybe I'm naive. But generally, I never say no. And then if you ask me, well, what does it mean they're your Siksha disciple? I would say, ask them. I leave it to them. So sometimes it just ends there. And someone will tell me, they won't even ask, can I be your Siksha disciple? They'll say, you know you're my Siksha guru, or I see you as my Siksha guru. Okay, fine. What does that mean? In terms of my responsibility towards them, they've never expressed that there is a responsibility. So as they want to take it, they take it. So someone may say, can I accept you as a Siksha guru? I like your classes, I'm inspired. They may write me some letters, some questions sometimes. It may go up, can I do service for you? It may go up, can I chant your prana mantra? Can I call you Gurudev? Can I put your picture on the altar? I leave it totally up to them. And I have a godbrother, and he was serious and he was joking at the same time. And he said, I really like Siksha disciples because some of my Siksha disciples are more dedicated than my Diksha disciples, and it's a great deal. I get their service without their karma. Half joking, half serious. And he said, if so-and-so Maharaj is willing to take thousands of disciples, he said, I don't personally need more Diksha disciples for my spiritual life, but if these Siksha disciples, if they want to come and we have a close relationship and they want to serve, it was almost like, not almost like, he was actually saying, I like this better. It's better for me. He felt the relationship was better. And something that I noticed, and this may be rare or exceptional, but in the early days at ISKCON, I was asked, it was like maybe 89 was the first time someone asked me if I would initiate them. And I, because of the culture in ISKCON at that point, I felt very uncomfortable. And the culture at that point was like, once you become someone's Diksha guru, you are everything to that person, and nobody else is really anything to that person. And if you study Prabhupada's books, when it says guru, it means Siksha and Diksha, but we take it to mean Diksha. So when that person reads Prabhupada's book, the guru's good as God, you surrender your life, you do everything. What was happening in those days is that when they would take that person as a Diksha guru, it was like formally they had to do certain things. And I felt it was a bit unnatural. It was like, okay, I need a Diksha guru because I want to go back to Godhead. You're here. you fit the bill, so can I be your disciple? And a lot of times it was very motivated personally. I need a guru. And it wasn't even about the relationship. And then it became very formal and a bit heartless. And I was very afraid of that. And I used to say I would rather have someone as a Siksha disciple, because if it's Siksha, I felt, at least in the context of those days, they didn't have to follow any of that formality. It was voluntarily. They were because they could be Siksha and they could say, well, Siksha relationship's over. Everything's good. You help me. I'm moving on. Or they weren't, in that context, they weren't feeling as a Siksha disciple, they needed to maintain that same formality. It wasn't like there was a pressure behind them. I have to do this, because they made a distinction. And I think there is some distinction. Often it's said that there's less formality with the Siksha Guru. He's more like a friend. That may or may not be true, but it was seen that I saw it that way, and I felt more comfortable. I go, oh, I want Siksha disciple because they don't have to surrender. They're doing it because totally they want to. And of course, my Diksha disciples say, no, we want to surrender. We're not doing it because we have to. But in those days, it was a little bit like that. And so I think that mood of my God brothers is kind of like, well, if you're a Siksha disciple, it's like, you're doing this. This is 108% coming from you. You're not obligated. Whereas if you're, have you ever heard a devotee say, my Diksha Guru wants me to do this, but I don't want to do it, so I'm doing it anyway, and like very begrudgingly? With a Siksha Guru, it's more like, he asked me to do it, but I have other service to my Diksha Guru. And it's like easier to get out of in many cases. And so I felt it to be very organic and very natural. And ISKCON has not established a real Siksha culture of what it means. I read something that Gopal Krishna Maharaj said, and his feeling was a Siksha disciple is like a Diksha disciple, and it's formal, etc., etc. And he said, just because you call someone a Siksha Guru doesn't mean they are. There's more formality to it. And other devotees would say, look at the person who's giving Bhagavatam class for that hour, he's your Siksha Guru. And that person that's counseling you, all the time, they're your Siksha Guru. And that person you're writing all your letters to that keeps giving you guidance, that's your Siksha Guru. And this person you're listening to every day, giving class on the internet, or you're listening to a few times a week, they're your Siksha, And ISKCON never had I think part of the problem is ISKCON didn't define what a Siksha Guru is. And so you have these very broad definitions on both sides, very liberal and very strict. But one thing I would say is that I think some of you have Siksha Gurus and you just haven't acknowledged it because you didn't understand it, or you felt, well, I already have a Diksha Guru, so why do I need another one? Or would I be offending my Guru if I was attached to this person? So it's kind of like you even formalize the relationship at a distance because you felt it would be offensive. So there's a lot of confusion, but there is definitely on the minds of the leaders, or many of them, a need to establish a Siksha culture. Because once you establish a culture that all these people can be your Siksha Gurus, it then brings Prabhupada to the center. Oh, he's our supreme Siksha Guru for everyone, because all of you now have Siksha Gurus. So naturally, Prabhupada as your Siksha Guru it's just more natural. Yeah, naturally it's more natural. So I'm the type of person that likes things to happen organically. And that's why when people say, I'd like to be your Siksha Guru, I don't say anything. I just say, okay, if I can help you, let me help you. I might sometimes say, what does that mean to you? But most of the times, I just observe what it means to them. Because as I said, sometimes they'll just ask, can I serve you? And one of the things that I've noticed is that the advantage of being a disciple of a guru who has many disciples, aside from the fact that that guru is powerful, is that you have a big family. And so you have this big support system, which could mean big festivals, big Vyas pujas, lots of publications, like more facility to promote him, so you get more of him. And devotees, a lot of devotees really find that very, very helpful and powerful. And at the same time, many of them really want the personal, and they can't get it. And that's why they start gravitating towards a Siksha guru who either doesn't have any disciples, or who has less disciples, or who maybe has more disciples but by nature makes time. So, okay, that's fine. If someone doesn't need it, that's fine. If someone needs it, that's fine. How do you want that relationship with that Siksha guru? That will depend on what you need, what you want, and what that guru is okay with. I think I have as many or more Siksha disciples than I do have initiated and waiting to be initiated disciples. I think it's at least equal. And it's a very regular thing that I get this, which to me is it makes me happy. I'm not happy because, I have another disciple, more service, more money, more honor, that's not why I say I'm happy. Of course, if those things come, yes, I'm very happy to get service and support, of course, naturally. But when that happens, I'm thinking, this is a sign that ISKCON is healthy, that people can find guidance in another person without feeling that in any way they're minimizing their relationship with their guru. But they're just adding something to their life. They're not taking anything away. They're adding to it. And I always think, that's really good. That means that's a healthy sign. And when that happens, I always think, I hope all the devotees understand this. I hope all the devotees feel this way. And I hope all my disciples know that I'm very happy if they find shelter in a Diksha Guru. And generally, Siksha Guru. And generally, they will gravitate to find a guru that is like them. But, Kamaniya, this is an interesting event, and I think something else I've seen is that some people have gravitated to me because I'm completely different from their guru. And I think that's a sign of a healthy family. Like their guru is very, very, conservative, strict, even to the point of fanatically strict. Guru Maharaj, can I do this? Can I go to the right 1 degree? No. What about left 1 degree? No. What about up 1 degree? No. 1/10 of a degree only. What about down 1/10 of a degree? No. 1/100th of a degree. And sometimes what happens for some disciples is that they'll hear another guru speak who's a little different or a lot different. And they'll think, they'll hear them and they'll think, this is, I relate to that. I related to my guru when I was a younger devotee, but now I'm married and I'm not I'm not strict like that. I'm different. One devotee was asking me the question, why would someone, because in some cases, we've seen disciples become more attached to the Siksha Guru than the Diksha Guru. And I don't want to say that it's right or wrong, but only because as they grew in Krishna consciousness, they changed and they realized their guru has never changed. He's still, don't go right, don't go left, don't go up and down. And I've changed. And no, I'm up, I'm down, I'm right, I'm left. I've got a more nuanced or broad view of things. And then they hear a guru who's exactly saying that. No, we have to understand context. In this context, you can go left. In that context, you can go right. But we have to maintain the principle, which is this. This is the verse. This is the purport. And then the disciple thinks, I never heard that from my guru. That really makes sense to me. That really resonates with me. And naturally, they become attracted to that guru. And in some cases, this happens, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it. In some cases, they'll say, I can't actually listen to my guru because what I'm hearing from my Siksha guru makes more sense to me than what my Diksha guru is saying. And when I took initiation, my Diksha guru, like what he was saying, made total sense to me because that's where my mind was. That's where I was. But I've grown and I'm understanding Krishna consciousness differently. I've heard from other Prabhupada disciples. When I was a young devotee, I only heard from my guru. I heard from other Prabhupada disciples. They have a slightly different vision. Then I heard from this one Prabhupada disciple, and it just resonated, and it helped me so much. And I felt so inspired in their association and so comfortable that I ended up becoming more attached to them than my own guru. It happens. Now, you might say that's bad or that's wrong, but I would say, is it okay with their guru, and is it actually helping their Krishna consciousness? In most cases, in rare cases, their guru may say, I don't like that guru, or you're being unchaste. But in most cases, that would not happen. The guru would say, oh yeah, I can understand why, because he's preaching about book distribution and you're a book distributor and I don't preach about it much. I can understand why you're so attached and why you're getting so, yeah, go there, take shelter, So the guru thinks whatever is best for the disciple. So if the disciple becomes more attached to someone else, and that helps them, they have even more faith in that guru than their own, maybe 1% more, 10% more, for whatever reason, whatever. Or maybe that guru is a grihasta, and they needed a grihasta guru because they just got married, and their guru is like a 70-year-old sannyasi, and he's like, don't ask me this stuff. I don't want to get into it. I don't know about it. I'll give you the wrong advice. And they think, I need a grihasta guru. Or vice versa. These are ecstatic symptoms, right? Choking, you've read that? Choking is one of the ecstatic symptoms. I'm choking. It must be ecstasy, right? And then it works the other way. Or my guru is a grihasta, and I'm taking vanapras now, or I want to remain brahmachari. I really feel the inspiration from a sannyasi. But when I took my guru, I didn't know I wanted to remain brahmachari, or I didn't know that I have this renounced side. So I need a sannyasi. Okay, of course. Then the guru's like, yeah, I'm not a sannyasi. Travel with, so-and-so Maharaj. That'll be great for you. So it's all good until we make it bad. There's nothing bad about it until we throw on crazy ideas and say it's bad. It's all good until we make it bad. That's my opinion. So the answer to your question is, how does that work in a relationship? It depends on the disciple, the Siksha disciple. What do they want? Do they want that relationship as you are my guru every much as my Diksha guru? Do they want that relationship? You have more now in my life now. You have more prominence than my own guru. You are actually more involved in my life than my own guru. All respects to my guru. He's busy. He's got so many things going, so many projects. What he's doing, where he's going, how he lives, it's different from you, my Siksha guru, where you're at, how you live, what you want. I feel so much more connected to you at this point in my life. Fine, no problem. As long as that doesn't turn into offense to your guru, and as long as your guru is happy with that, yes, I'm happy, take shelter, that's fantastic. Everything's fine. And as I say, it would only be a rare case where your guru wouldn't. So, my experience is most Siksha disciples who come to me come from gurus who are like me, but occasionally they come from gurus who are exactly the opposite of me, because those disciples need someone more like me at this point in their life. Okay, Krishna provided me. I am the way I am. Their Diksha guru is the way he is. Together, he's strict, boom, boom, boom. I'm a little more lenient, but it's good. You get punched on one side and you get hugged on the other. It works. I remember 5 years ago when you became my Siksha guru, I was afraid to tell Indradumna Swami because we have a close relationship. I thought he will feel betrayed by me, but Gurudev called me and said, I heard the news today, oh boy, that you've taken shelter of Mahatma Das. And though the news was rather sad, no. But Gurudev called me and said, I heard news that Mahatma Prabhu became your Siksha Guru, and Gurudev said that he is so proud of me that I have such amazing Siksha Guru. And I have to read this. Oh my God. And he said he is grateful to Mahatma Prabhu that he's helping him in his duty to get me back to the spiritual world. He said we are all spiritual family. We're all helping each other. Exactly, that's it. If that mood is there, then absolutely no problem. The only problem would be if there's not that mood. So I have another disciple, and he couldn't decide, should he take initiation from me or from Indraduma Swami? So initially, I think it was Indra Swami, then it was me, then something happened and he had some doubt, should it be me? He went to Maharaj and he explained everything to Maharaj. You know what Maharaj said? He said, take from Mahatma Prabhu. If he would have asked me, he asked me, he said, I'm attached to Indra Swami. I said, well, ask him what he wants you to do. So it works so well that way. And everybody's happy, I hope. Which story shared about me? Yeah, the one Indra story was shared about me, yeah. That's why it was embarrassing to read it. To be honest, after becoming your Siksha disciple, my relationship with Indra Swami became deeper and stronger. Wow, fantastic. That's such good news. I actually have a Diksha Guru and 2 Siksha Gurus, you one of them, and I listen to all 3 daily. Wow. And I am so happy to have a spiritual father and 2 spiritual uncles that help me constantly. Well, there's a real-life testimonial. This is a great class to hear all this. Actually, I feel much more free to talk to you instead in front of my Guru Maharaj. I get emotional and complete block. That's why it said sometimes the Siksha Guru, it's a more informal and more of like a friend. I don't know the Shastra for that. I've heard very elevated devotees say that. I don't know the source of it. Well, Kishore Mani, thank you to share. I am also a disciple of Indra Swami. I was afraid too. I'm feeling grateful of Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, feeling afraid. What if I tell my Guru Maharaj I have a Siksha disciple? You know, what's he going to do? Throw me off a bridge? No, he's going to say, yeah, that's great. If Gurudev, your throat is good, I hope have kirtan. No, throat is not good. No, my time is not good, so I think I need to go. Indirectly, Bhakti Shura Swami was the reason I found you, because I was doing little service for one of his disciples. Wow. Interesting. Here's a great story. There was a devotee in Mauritius who wanted to take initiation from me, and I wasn't giving initiation. And he had previously asked Bhakti Chara Swami if he could take initiation. And he was going crazy because he was serving me all the time. And so he saw me as his guru, and I was not. In those days, you know, if a person didn't give you diksha, you couldn't see them as your guru. So he was going crazy, and I wasn't giving initiation. And he had a dream, and Prabhupada said, take diksha from Bhakti Chara Swami and serve Mahatma Prabhu as your guru. Wow, perfect, right? Because I wasn't giving diksha. So he said, make Mahatma Prabhu your guru as he is now, and take diksha from Bhakti Chara Swami, because you need diksha, you need to get connected. He will connect you, and then from there, he gives you to Mahatma Prabhu, and Mahatma Prabhu takes care of you. That's our Gaudiya Vaishnava history. I feel super lucky that I had a chance to speak with Bhakti Churu Maharaj this February in Mayapur. I met him on the way from our home to the temple and met him. And he told me Hare Krishna and asked me for my name. And a place I'm coming, and we talked about his visit, Polish Woodstock, ages ago. That was sweet talking. Any talk with him would be sweet. Vikash Vashvani says, it's very difficult to explain how much I'm benefiting by listening from you on Prabhupada. All these years I heard your kirtan, Brahma Samhita. Now that it's lockdown here, it's becoming possible. All glories to lockdown. To hear live classes, thank you for all this. It's beneficial to me. Respects. Vikash, I'm so happy that you're benefiting. My life is this, to benefit all the devotees. You know, there were many things I could do with my life, and there was one point I was contemplating, should I do this or that? And then my ultimate thought was, I can share so much of my experience with Prabhupada, why I don't want to do anything that would in any way minimize that. You know, like I could do other, like big outreach programs, and I still do them, and big focus on outreach. And instead of talking to you, I could be talking to a whole world of non-devotees every day. So I just made that decision. I said, it makes sense, having so much experience in ISKCON and so much association with Prabhupada, that in the end of my life that I would be sharing that all the time, because that would have the greatest long-lasting effect. You know, and I said, I will do this. And I said, Krishna, if I do these other things, I can just charge non-devotees money. They'll go to my classes, they'll give me money, they'll go to my seminars. And I said, if I do this, I don't know how I'm going to support myself. So I threw my hands up in the air and said, Krishna, you know, if this is important, you'll support me. So that was my decision. I have to step up my game and get more seriously about my Krishna consciousness. I feel sobered, and I want to hold on to this sober mood for as long as I can. Fantastic. Yeah, because sooner or later we have to step up our game if we want to be Krishna conscious, and sooner is better than later, because if you do it later, when you finally do it, you're going to be beating yourself, thinking, why didn't I do it sooner? Would you know how much percentage of ISKCON is non-Indian? That would be total speculation. In South America, 99.9% is non-Indian. There's no money in South America, so no Indians go to work there. In America, I can't say. It's different in every temple. But then, of course, you have India. But you have, I don't know, 50%? Who knows? Does anybody know? Go to Poland, there's hardly any Indians. Lithuania, I didn't see any Indians. You know, so Russia, you know, certain parts of the world you won't see many. America, Australia, you'll see a lot. Certain temples in America, practically all Indians. Maharaj, in short of a way, I'm happy to have joined ISKCON now than that period. Yeah, of course not counting Srila Prabhupada's presence, because things are so much more stable. Yeah, it's true. Those were hard times. Although I know devotees who joined in the midst of those hard times. I was so concerned about them. So we want to bring people into such a healthy environment, an exemplary environment. I heard that Srila Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. Yes. Is that the case? Did he say that? Might you know? Yes. That's what we were told, that's what we've heard, that's what's been quoted, and that's what's proven to be true. We never understood that. We never understood how difficult it would be to maintain our Krishna consciousness through our entire lives. But Prabhupada said that. In fact, one devotee told me that Prabhupada said it will be rare that someone can follow the four regular principles throughout their entire life. And I was following the principles. I was thinking, I don't understand. Why did Prabhupada say that? That doesn't make sense. And now, with time, we see how many devotees have perfectly followed every day of their lives after initiation the regulative principles. Definitely broken them in our minds, right? Contemplated at least for 1 second, breaking them, yeah. What to speak of actually doing them? I've had dreams and I have no idea why. I've had like 3 dreams in my life that I was intoxicated. And I have no idea why. So to perfectly follow the principles, even not dream about them, you know, that's rare. The Prabhupada's saying that's rare. We're so conditioned. Fortunately, I only got intoxicated once, but it wasn't because I did it. It's because I was doing Sankirtan around it, and all the Sankirtan devotees got high. That's another story. We didn't realize what was happening. We were actually around glue. The workers were gluing, and we were distributing books where the glue was. And wind was blowing from the glue panels to us. For 15 hours we distributed books, and we got home at night. We were completely high. The one and only time I got high in ISKCON, other than eating too many gulab jamuns. My warning to all of you is what happened to us could happen to you. Maybe not in the same way. All right, so the name of this talk will be What Happened After Prabhupada Left Could Happen After All Prabhupada's Disciples Leave. Let's just give it that title, because that's, I think, the main gist of it. Thank you, Kamaniya. And that title will attract attention. And again, like the last classes I've been giving, I believe they're just inspired by Bhakti Swami, and probably in many ways better than other classes. If you're inclined, you think this class is useful, please share it. It's a lot of things that I say that then devotees write me with questions of things I speak in my class. I realize they're not hearing the class, and it would be helpful. Maya is becoming stronger every day. We can see it in everyday life, and the only hope we have is in Prabhupada and his books and his words. Did I say that? Or did you say that? Or did we both say that? Yeah. Isn't that interesting that I can't even remember if I said it? Christe says, I think this is a very important message together with yesterday's lecture. When we doubt in our abilities to surrender and being able to go back to God, I just remember what Guru just said. Mm-hmm. Just remember what Guru Maharaj just said. It will be our responsibility at one point, and we will have to maintain Prabhupada in everyone's heart with the best of our efforts. Sometimes we forget what a great responsibility this is. Okay, Satya Rupa, or any of you. I don't know how to say this, but I have to say it. I think in these last 3 classes, a few important things have come out that would be helpful for devotees. So like a statement like this is very important. If you, Satya Rupa, could gather those statements and then post them every day, every other day, every third day on my Facebook page, I think that would really be good. Because I just think Bhakti Swami, it's not me, he's just inspiring me to say these things. Or he's saying it and I'm just a mouthpiece. But I'm reading these things, and like I said, I know this sounds strange to you. I'm like, I said that. That's amazing. That's a good point. So I don't take it that I'm saying it. I think Krishna's saying it through me. So I would like these statements. I think, Kamaniya, you have a lot of them. You can give to Satya Rupa. Anyone can send to Satya Rupa, and she'll put them up, or send to Radha Priya. They can put them up on the Facebook page. One a day or something. I think you have to prepare us for your leave because we are in denial that you will ever leave. Yeah. Krishna Karshini thinks I'm going to live to 108, so she'll die before me. 108, that would give me 38 years. That would make you 81, right? How old are you? 43? So let's say you're 43, or maybe you're older. It would make you'd be in your 80s, so you figure, okay, I'll live to 108, you'll die first. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I will, but... Yeah, well, tomorrow's class at noon is about this topic. How do you deal with loss? And the intention of that class also is how to prepare for the loss of those near to you. And, in one sense, you can never be prepared, but at least we can try. I remember that one Srila Prabhupada disciple said that if you Srila Prabhupada disciples thought that Srila Prabhupada would stay with you forever, then why you did not ask him many important questions that should be asked, and you were that prepared for his departure, created many problems because there were so few. It's just because Prabhupada was solving everything, we never had to think, and so we thought of some questions, but we just there were situations that Prabhupada just dealt with, so the problem never manifested, so we never envisioned the problem because Prabhupada always caught the problem before it happened. And then the second thing was you couldn't envision certain things changing, like Ritvik. Who could envision they're going to be Ritviks? Who could envision that? This is like far beyond. Who would envision that all these devotees would start going to Sridhar Maharaj and Narayan Maharaj? It was just, we couldn't ask these questions because we, in a million years, would never imagine these things happening. That's part of it. Why may we try to pull out a few cards which we never seen before? Maya will try to pull out a few cards which we've never seen before. Means she will try new tricks. Yeah, I think that's a good quote. Yeah, another way of saying that. After all the Prabhupada disciples leave, Maya will pull out cards to destroy ISKCON that we've never seen before. That's a quote, Satyarupa, or someone can write it down for her if she's not here. It's a sobering time, Prabhu. Your mood and classes this week feel extremely important. Yeah. It's all the mercy of Bhakti Swami. Otherwise, I wouldn't be saying all these things. ISKCON Toronto is in the midst of a 12-day virtual Rath Yatra. Wow. It's amazing. I think Krishna wants to see how eager we are to find ways. Yeah. Michael Green, I enjoyed chanting with Bhakti Swami. Everybody does. Christe, why don't you set up another camera and broadcast your lectures live on YouTube at the same time? It's on Facebook. This way, once the lecture is finished, it will be available on both platforms immediately. We can do that. Radha Priya can do that. She actually may be doing it. I don't know. But I'll make a note because she can't. I'll ask her. She might be doing it. It's not hard to do. It's just a little button you hit. Or I have to hit it. Well, then it's hard. I have to hit the button. And I have to remember to hit the button. Now we're getting complicated here. I'll find out. Maybe not everyone has Facebook, so this way you could react. Yeah, I want to actually broadcast on Mayapur TV. That takes it to another level. Shatarupa ki jai. Jyotirmayi, if I can give an advice what I'm doing since some months for my Guru Maharaj, please have someone to download all the videos and lessons that you're giving online. Facebook does not allow a lot backwards, and if someone tries it, it takes a lot of struggle. Go to my Facebook page and see if everything's being unloaded, because in theory it should be. So, Krishnangi says, I have daily quotes and all the classes are uploaded on YouTube almost daily. Okay, so we're actually doing it. I never know if we're doing what, if things are being maintained, but that was the plan, so it sounds like it's being maintained. It's going on SoundCloud. It's also going on Spotify and iTunes now. Thanks for your commitment. Was just thinking of broadcasting at the same time. Both platforms. Yeah. No, we can do it. It's just a click a button. In that sense, even non-devotees or unfavorable circumstances can bring us closer to Krishna. Yeah. And we will have to be prepared. And if we're determined, we'll be successful. The classes on Zoom can be streamed in live with YouTube instead of Facebook. Could help those who don't use Facebook. Yeah. But then it doesn't help those who do use Facebook. So I think we can stream on all. We might be able to stream everywhere. Often some people offer me books to read or send spiritual information from another sampradaya, and I would firmly refuse and reply that I read only Prabhupada's books. This was mainly to be streamlined without confusion. I thought it was practical to follow our sampradaya, yeah. Yeah, that's the idea. Please accept my obeisances, Jai Prabhupada. What are your thoughts on a few devotees accepting second generation devotees? Siksha Guru. Why not? You mean disciples of Prabhupada disciples? Or people born in the movement? Whoever helps you become Krishna conscious can be your Siksha Guru. Taking Siksha from you has been one of the best decisions I could have... Now I have to read this. Oh, it's hard for me to read this. It has always been helping me a lot in many ways to perform the services I'm doing now. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention this, that I forgot I was going to make this point, that sometimes gurus have so many disciples that all the services are taken and their disciples don't get to engage in their service. And I find that sometimes someone wants to become a Siksha Guru because they actually want to do service for their guru. So when they have a Siksha Guru and they can personally serve their guru, they get very inspired, because they don't have that opportunity with their Diksha Guru. So that, I don't know if that was a consequence, a byproduct benefit, or it actually was a motivation. I know of some devotees who see you as either already being their Guru or are exploring seeing you that way. Some are already calling you Gurudev. What is the process for those devotees? What is the process for those devotees? As I'm not your direct disciple, I don't feel qualified to advise them. But some have approached me privately. Some have only been hearing from you for 2 or 3 months. Have you already addressed this, perhaps in a video or elsewhere? We are in the process of finalizing this. Satya Rupa could know where, but I have written 30, 40 pages on guru and disciple and all the stages to go through and what I need and what's required. And that will be put up on my website. But they still should write me when they make that decision, and then I can direct them. We also would have an application just to learn more about them. So that's all coming up on the website. Until then, it's you could tell them this, it's awkward for me if someone calls me Gurudev and they never told me I'm their guru. Then I have to think, was that a Freudian slip, or do you actually mean that? Or sometimes people call me Gurudev because other people call me Gurudev and they just think that's why my title, like Mahatma Prabhu, Gurudev, Maharaj. Yeah. So and they call me Gurudev, and I think, but I don't know that you're my guru because you never told me. So then I'm thinking, well, you're just probably calling me that because everyone else, or not everyone, others are. So yeah, for me at least at this. So we have, but right now, if you go on my website, there's a lot about Guru Tattva. It's just not as well organized and edited as I wanted it to be, but we're getting there. Veda Vyas is asking, is it important to take Siksha inside or outside of ISKCON, or both? Inside. You're going to have a problem if you take it outside. If you want to be part of ISKCON and you're taking it outside, you may not have a problem, but you may. It depends on who the outside is. It depends on their relationship with ISKCON and so forth. You know, if he's a generous, open-hearted Vaishnava who understands Prabhupada, you may take Siksha from him and he'll say, just stay and serve within ISKCON. I've even heard some devotees who came to a Diksha Guru to take Diksha, and they came from ISKCON, and he said, stay and serve within ISKCON. That's appreciated. That's the way it should be. You know, if you say, I want to take Siksha from you, and I'm engaged in serving here and there, I'm not going to say stop serving there and serve me. That would be wrong. Okay. Manjari says, I feel so blessed to have you. Now I have to read all these things. Do I have to read all this? I learned so much about practical life, how to apply teachings and teachings of Prabhupada, scriptures I learned from you. Although I'm am following my Siksa Guru also. They talk more about pastimes of the Lord and philosophy, but how to apply it in our lives, I'm learning from you. Thank you so much. So I chose to focus on the practical for the very reason you said, that there's already so much Shastric and Rasic knowledge available from so many people more qualified than I am. And I thought, well, there's a vacuum of topics that need to be addressed, so I just decided to address them. And if you want more Rasic Leela knowledge, you get it sometimes from me or, deep philosophy, but it's not what predominantly you'll get from me, because I know you can get it everywhere else. And I don't think what I'm teaching many people are teaching, so that's why I chose to focus on it. Not necessarily that this is my personal taste, but I like doing it because I know it helps you. My Diksha Guru, His Holiness Kadamba Swami, is a second generation Guru, yeah. And I can assure you that there's no difference. He is totally Srila Prabhupada oriented. Yeah, you would never know. He's second generation. Okay, we're over time. And I have to go now. So many things to do. And I think it was a good class. And I think a great value of this class will be that we can get these little snippets of jewels that came out of it that we can put on Facebook to help other devotees. So Satya Rupa and others, if you can. Or if you don't have connection with Satya Rupa or her email ID, you can send them to me, and I will send them to her. I'm sure, Kamini, you have a lot. You sent a lot yesterday. So you can send on WhatsApp more. And all of you, send to me on Facebook, WhatsApp, however you like. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Tomorrow, wow, it's interesting. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how to deal with the departure of a Vaishnava in tomorrow morning's class. And then at the class on noon, we're going to talk about it also, because tomorrow's for the Russians. So we're going to have two of the same classes. That'll be interesting. Okay. Second one may be better than the first. Not always. Because the second one, I try not to say what I said in the first because I get bored. Often the first is better. But then you would think, the second one you have more time to think. And you'll say things you didn't say in the first. I can't guarantee which one will be better. The second one won't be translated. So you'll hear more. If that means anything. Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna.